channel is dedicated to all kinds of things. This is our special weekend marathon with my husband. So I'm going to move things along because we're going to try to keep it at about what we did last night. I know everyone's attention span doesn't last forever. So let's dive into it. Yesterday we covered my sort of open letter to the Pentagon, and then we got into what I wanted to establish as Michael's, not qualifications, but history within the Army, and sort of what brought him there and what he was responsible for, what he did there, so that we all know the backstory of this qualified, well-qualified, overqualified Master Sergeant First Class, 7 to 8 years in, during what would be considered wartime. He is, of course, a veteran. He is not boots on the ground veteran, but he is a veteran nevertheless, a veteran, Master Sergeant First Class, E7. So having discussed all of the very remarkable, shall we say, things that he had done that we established yesterday, we moved into some controversy. And the controversy goes back to something that y'all should Google if you don't know it already, and that is the don't ask, don't tell policy, which was under the Clinton administration, whereby everybody was just sort of instructed to turn a blind eye to everyone's sexual orientation because they were needed. So where I will sort of leave off and begin, we kind of ended last time at the beginnings of when Michael did this sort of become a thing. That was sort of some of my last questions after going through all of this, being in a frame of mind where, wow, this is not flying anymore, you know, in terms of my being gay. It wasn't a problem with the platoons that I supervised. It was becoming obviously uncomfortable with the mucky muck. So I'm going to turn this over to Michael. We're going to have a conversation about how the Pentagon took him down twice without a reach around. So, welcome.
Yeah, that's
Michael.
funny. Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
That was
So,
funny.
so like I said, we left off yesterday. I wanted to establish who you are, what you did, how it was whitewashed and sort of, you know, lied and covered and everything, misrepresented in the press,
Right.
regarded, suddenly stripped down 6 ranks to a private first class, and having that sort of disseminated as propaganda.
It is a good look, though.
Sweep you under the rug. So at that moment we left off where there was like, whoa, this is starting to become an issue. And then it had a tremendous emotional impact twice, because it was an out, then a back in,
Right.
then you were no longer useful or whatever, and
Right.
then there was an out again.
Yes.
Then it was a manipulation by an organization or
Yes.
3 for you to serve a political purpose,
Yes.
since you were no longer useful to the military.
Yes.
So from that moment of, okay, this is now becoming a thing, and you're sort of on your way to that typewriter moment, what is unfolding? Tell me about the MPs. Tell me about that 72-hour hold. Tell me all of that, when the shit started hitting the fan.
I admitted to being gay, obviously with a typewriter and military letterhead. I admitted to everything and hand-delivered it to the command. Armory. There was a blackout for a while. I was called for a psychiatric evaluation from what I would call the Psychological Operations Unit. I was summoned into a room. I walked. The first wall in front was a big light wall. The person in front of the wall took the appearance on as a silhouette, so I couldn't identify the person asking the questions. To the left and right of me, I had 2 guards a foot from me, white uniforms, black shoes, very handsome black gentlemen, I must say. They were really cute. And the questions began. Example, was a very large stack of papers, and I don't know if you want to call it security clearance or not, but nevertheless, it starts looking at the black silhouette. Page number 1, this is how it would go. Well, Michael Dull, during the year of X and Y, your mother and father were experiencing a problem. How did that make you feel? Well, it's kind of odd to ask such a bizarre question. All the questions from that point on continued in the same fashion over and over and over again. How did that make you feel? How did that make you feel? The guards were there for a reason, because as the questions went on, I became very angry, and they could feel it resonate. And the guards were concerned and a little trembling, but I maintained my composure. Again, during this time, how did you feel? After that, I was dismissed, and there was a moment of silence, and it lasted 1.5 years. And during that time, again, I would go to the Gay and Lesbian Center every Wednesday to the adult rap group, Current Affairs, How Are You Doing? And one day, this 72-year-old gentleman came in with a glass eye, participated in the group, which was kind of unusual because the group were in their 30s, and here's a 72-year-old very wise man. And he would go there for about 3 weeks. And he knew about what happened to me. I did not know that. 3 weeks later, he moved in to my home. I don't know if you know the definition of Manchurian candidate, but this is how it goes. First, his name is Jay Murley. He was heavily involved with the American Civil Liberties Union, gay rights advocate back to the 1960s and the Stonewall generation. Highly intelligent, very educated. I had no idea who this man was. He just seemed comforting because of my own situation, but there were alternative plans to that. He started teaching me world politics, gay, lesbian, transgender issues around the world, cultures, and the demise of gays and lesbians who are caught, and what happens to them. Some have a bag put over their head and tossed off a roof, and they die, and so forth. Politics, government structure, legalities. Their goal was to foster anger in me without me knowing it by disclosing this very unfortunate information that would make anybody angry. And this grooming went on for 4 months. When Mr. J. Murley thought I was ready, all of a sudden publicity junkets started. CNN building interviews on radio, Advocate National Magazine, newspapers, New York Times, LA Times, people calling from everywhere, City West Hollywood, the mayor, John Heilman. And his goal was to foster and harbor a lot of anger because the ACLU was trying to convince a certain congressman in a certain state. The Jonas Don't Tell policy was enforced, but this closet case gentleman was going to vote to keep it in force. I did not know any of this. Mr. J. Murley coordinated me and grew me for public speaking, watched me, graded me, followed me and sent me to different colleges, university, Cal Poly Pomona as an example, to step in front of hundreds of people with that anger that they or he established in me to unleash, not knowing why, but I was angry. I shared it with people, colleges, campuses, private universities, Christian universities, and I would just simply go there and share the truth. each college, one by one. It's really odd because it always concluded with everybody in the audience crying. You didn't expect such a reaction. It was repeated over several times. He put me with Randy Schultz, who authored the book, The Don't Ask, Don't Tell Policy, Gays and Lesbians in the United States Military. I met with the gentleman over a few days privately in West Hollywood behind Bank of America and interviewed, and he culminated information. I do not know if that made it in the book or not, but the experience and it did occur. The press junkets, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought it was because I was gay, I was dismissed, our rights. I had no idea that Jay Murley, who is so heavily involved in high positions with the ACLU and back to the 60s, had an agenda, again, to out the assemblymen. I did not know the plan. All the publicity, newspaper articles were all written by Jay Murley. This I did not know. I was very distracted at the time to even realize that the stuff was going into publication. And then I got a call from the guard again, a year and a half later, after being groomed with all this information designed to make me extremely angry with grand political knowledge. I have the paper. It says the results of your psychological evaluation has been completed and you are required to return to duty. Now that's quite interesting, because I just want to share you one picture that's flashed all over the country. And here it is. See? He came out, he was kicked out, he was let back in, he made news, he was kicked out. March 1991. These are the things that Jay Murley wanted to do. He wanted to agitate the military. He wanted to agitate the Pentagon. He wanted to take out an assemblyman who might vote incorrectly, or if he didn't, he wouldn't. He had a group of people come into my home in black, about 6 of them, and they started assembling press kits. I didn't know why. I just figured he knew what he was doing, and I'm the student with no idea that I'm being groomed to hit a target without knowing, which we'll get into. And I lost my train of thought. That's what happens with PTSD.
There was the influx of folks suddenly doing campaign work where you were living.
Yes, campaign work.
Or whatever you want to call it. Yes,
the press kits went out around the world, actually. So I would get these calls in the middle of the night from Australia, from Britain, from France, places that I really wasn't aware of. I mean, geographically, I did not realize that these press kits were designed for this kind of a splash, target audience, to invoke anger, wanting to agitate people's response. Again, unaware, thinking I was doing the right thing, thinking this was about my situation being out in, news out. Give me a second. I have 40 pages of documents in this phone from 1991. It starts in 91, and it succinctly covers the entire history and the involvement of myself at the direction of the ACLU without knowing it. When the press kits went out, it reached the politician involved who was going to vote against it. It involved a few senators. It involved the Department of the Army. It involved the Pentagon. When I returned to the unit, everybody was pretty cool and welcome. I felt like I was back at home. And then I get a letter from the service saying that because of the clerical error and the don't ask, don't tell policy, which they were relieving the pressure of the policy at the time, I had to leave again. Jay Murley again took that opportunity and put me on display around the world, magazines, again, junkets and radio shows. It felt exciting. I didn't know why. I was on the high. But the things I was saying was invoking a lot of anger in people. The tribunal, I'll call it that. I learned something with Sean in the bathroom. It was this really great piece of music. And the first line was, let me think about that, about the experience.
The songs we were picking for the preview.
No. Every experience makes a good teacher. I don't profess and I'm not a teacher, but unfortunately I was programmed with enough information to have a bounty of experience. The assemblyman, because of Jay Murley, sent out another press junket kit throughout the United States, threatening the assemblyman who is in the closet, who was voting to keep the Don't Ask, Tell policy in force. It was a threat to out him if he voted to keep the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. I knew none of this. Today I was reading these documents. Most I thought I knew. I was extremely shocked by the content in these documents. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that I agitated a nation. I had no idea I was being manipulated by the ACLU. Who knew about that? I had no idea there was an agenda, but I was certainly programmed to burn it down. Let me have some water. My mouth has a dry mouth. Excuse me, that's a lot of talking. Oh, meanwhile, I don't have my dentures, so I'm talking weird. I get them next week. So, the tribunal.
Yes, the tribunal was a very interesting.
Yes, tribunal. Jay Murley gave me a quarter. And he told me to take this quarter and put it in my right pocket. Now, what's interesting about a quarter, it has heads you win and tails you lose. And I was told by Jay Murley that if the tribunal did not give me an honorable discharge, I was to threaten them with this quarter. That if you don't give me an honorable discharge, I will take this quarter, walk out the door, drop it in the phone. I don't have to say anything, just to click and hang up. Mr. J. Murley had Queer Nation and ACT UP ready to protest through all the armories if it was dishonorable. I threatened a tribunal of officers with a quarter. Heads, I win. Tails, they lost. They were very concerned. They seemed very worried. And they asked for a sidebar for 20 minutes, so I exited the office. I looked at the dioramas in the armory that I put together representing each unit. I spent a lot of time doing it. And then I was called back in. They said I was against God, I was against the country, that I will have a very difficult time finding civilian work. Isn't that interesting? No VA, no GI, but I got an honorable discharge because of this quarter, and I put it back in my pocket. Mind you, I had a representative from the Gay and Lesbian Center witnessing everything that happened in the tribunal. Very, very close friend of mine. After the tribunal, back to the congressman. It all became about the congressman because I did my job. I took on the brass. I made an ultimatum and explained the follow-through of the Manchurian candidate. Agitation continued for another year. Press junkets, radio talk shows, Connie Norman show, CNN. And then, that I find out in these documents, the assemblyman becomes aware of the press kits that Jay Murley sent out to fulfill the ACLU's dream of influencing his vote to take away the don't ask, don't tell policy. This caused a firestorm. This is when the senators became involved. This is where prior retired colonels were involved. Everybody was speaking out. Jay Murley is orchestrating the grandest letters, and everybody in the world thought I wrote all of them. The assemblymen I started to be threatened for what I supposedly did, but I did not. I realized at that moment that Jay Murley washed me to do that. And at that moment, I realized, and I admitted to the press, that everything was orchestrated by Jay Murley. Thank God he dropped the charges. I thought, great, I'm gonna spend some time behind bars because Mr. President of the ACLU or whatever, look him up, Jay Murley. It's quite fascinating.
Chapter president.
Chapter president.
Orange County.
Yes, Fullerton, absolutely, Fullerton, California. And then I had to disappear. I have a new name, it's Michael Alexander. I used to be Michael Dull. It was a very hated, dreaded name for a great many people in high places. I felt if I changed my name and got lost, forgot about it, and stayed quiet, it would go away. It haunted me for 32 years. It interrupted everything. I had obsessive compulsive disorder. I was a drunk for a year. I ran around to bars, which was out of my character. I even did a song show for a leather bar. I made a lot of money. All I had to do is walk up the stage and they would throw money at me.
It's like Vegas.
Just like Vegas. I was doing different things that I never would have done in my life as a consequence of my understanding of what happened. And towards the end of that experience, and thanks to the mayor of West Hollywood, John Heilman, who offered me any assistance or help no matter what I asked for, I ended up going to work for the City of West Hollywood Parking Enforcement Bureau. They sent me to the Los Angeles Police Academy to receive my PC 831A powers of arrest and impoundment. Basically, 4 months of training. I was a sergeant. I orchestrated the flow of parking enforcement in the City of West Hollywood. It was very lucrative because I found out that parking enforcement helps subsidize a certain percentage of the city budget. In fact, I wrote the training manual not knowing how to reduce stress. There was quotas, man. And officers were scared getting in the car, quota, quota, quota. I figured out a way, an easy way, where I only had to write 7 tickets an hour and kick back the rest of the time. So over to here, at the end of my beat, the young men's study, they would call me and I would block off space to randomly ask people if they wanted to be tested for HIV. His name was John. I knew him well at the time. And one day he said, "Hey, Joel, my coworker says, gosh, you're the one. He really has a crush on you." And I'm like, wow, that's quite interesting. I was never one to ever pick up on people. But for some reason, I took my auto site, which writes the tickets, and I typed in a red zone and a penal violation.
Because the Schooner friggin' clinic was kind of technically ticketable.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my fault, but I always drove that thing.
So, long story short, in the remarks section, I said my name, my days off, and my phone number. I lived in Huntington Beach. I commuted to West Hollywood based on some circumstances. And 3 weeks later, he called and said, "Well, why didn't you call?" And I said, "Well, I don't call people back."
No, you said the phone works both ways.
Oh, yes, the phone works both ways. And I don't quite remember after that. It wasn't long that he picked me up in Huntington Beach and swept me off to West Hollywood, and that was the last time I saw it. How long was that after the ticket?
Well, I was with my coworker. I was doing social work. I was working for the epidemiologist that we had at the time that was dedicated to HIV and AIDS. And so we were required to do community assessment, testing, and venipuncture, which meant that we would give you a free HIV test. Of course, they were all blood tests. And I was trained across the board by the health department to do so. So that was basically enumerating, testing, interviewing, and then doing blood work, and then giving them the opportunity to come back and get the results for their blood work. So that is physically what I was doing at the corner. We had this gigantic, what I call schooner, which was like, what was it, like a 32-foot?
That was like a mobile laboratory, actually, with a counseling component to it.
Yeah, so that's where I was by. It was not as far up San Vicente as it should have been.
Right, exactly. Very
so
busy.
when he came
Cruisy
to me,
town.
when he came to me, I thought, I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen. The county's gonna have to take the ticket. It's gonna be a big old deal. It's gonna be my blah, 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 blah. But suddenly he's walking towards me, and he's the one that I had told my coworker, quote, "I could be very happy with that for a long time."
I'm flattered.
And he was letting somebody off a ticket because Michael, jovial Michael, his name is on his badge. So he would ask people that he was going to let off anyway.
Yes.
"I will let you off if you can guess my name."
Fun game.
Well, believe it or not, no one thought to look at his badge.
Is that not a
to
crack?
answer the question?
That's funny.
But he let him off anyway. However, he did pull in probably 10 times the revenue that any other officer, although he was field officer, but compared to those he was supervising, it was, I don't know, 10 or 20 times the quota.
Yeah, I wrote about 150 tickets a night, and the average officer did about 70. But I was really cool. I always let people off. I'll obviously hit the quota. I was in no damn hurry. So I got to hang out on Sunset Strip, Johnny Depp, the Viper Room, Tower Records, Sunset Plaza. And funny experience, I used to always hit the handicap zones because they made the most amount of money. And there was a handicap zone which was very small to fit one car in front of Tower Video, right across from the Viper Room. I would hang out at the Viper Room with the dudes. They're in black, everything is black, the Viper Room inside is black. And I'd hang out in there and they would look and wait for the next rich person with an expensive car pull into the handicap zone. So I would get my auto site and they would say, okay, it's a blue, and I'd hit blue, 4-door, Pontiac. I'm writing this down, they're giving me the information, print it. We watch the people get out of the car, walk about 60 feet, I casually go over there and slide that on the window, come back to the Viper room, and we wait for the inevitable. What the fuck?
Well, and I need to interject that this was what was known as Tower Records video.
Yes.
So there was
Yes.
the institution of Tower Records
Yes.
that I basically lived in. Across the street, they had taken over the corner in the 80s
Yes.
and made it Tower Video, which was also very popular. But there was a very convenient, again, this is coming from somebody who worked 12 years in paratransit.
Oh, it was convenient.
Google it. So for the disabled, they could pull in this little teeny cutaway, get out, return their video, get comfortably back into their vehicle and leave. And this would happen legitimately over and over.
Oh,
But this was West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And there were chock-a-block full of fancy cars with obnoxious people that felt entitled enough to pull in and leave their Bentley while they casually return their videos.
Exactly.
So again, those were the
Yes.
targets he's referring to.
And you know how much money they had to pay? $350.
In 94.
So all I had to do was work the handicap zones, leave the regular citizens alone, let them off. I was hitting my quota, hit the handicap zones, and laugh at the Viper room for doing it.
Well, and the rest
Oh,
of you,
no.
but what was it, the doorman or the one down by the side where the talent goes in? Because you weren't in the front of the Viper room. You were
No,
around-
it was a side entrance.
Right. That's where the
And
talent goes.
it looked right at the handicap spot. So all I had to do was walk 10 feet, slide it on the window, go back to the Viper room, around by security buddies of mine,
And I'll
and we
crack
would
up.
crack up because every time,
The
all
reaction.
night long, the reaction was priceless. Oh my God, the screaming and the profanity. It was outrageous.
Plus, you were
I had
so
a fun time.
You were so stealth at the time when I met you that essentially 20 tickets could be could be ticketed, and they could virtually be standing next to their car
Yes.
and end up with 3 tickets and not even know it.
Oh yeah, because West Hollywood was on a hill, and you had to turn your tires the right way, and nobody knew how to do it. Ooh, bingo ticket, wheel cramps. Oh, bingo ticket, you don't have a permit to be there. So I'd stack tickets.
Robin Hood.
Exactly, parking officer Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after that, I went into HIV because of Sean working the YMS. Right.
Yes, well, we can't. Well, actually, we're going. I think we're going to have to not continue the marathon, but I think we're going to have a special episode, separate in theme and topic, essentially, about us and everything that happened from the moment of our meeting and that whole scenario. My kitty cat's trying to get out of the door.
They want to be on
Because
camera.
we've been on camera for so long. They only give us a certain amount of time before they get
Exactly.
irate, because we're
Exactly.
the loft. But what we will do is, now that you've heard the meat and potatoes, so to speak, up until our meeting,
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
and let's go from that point about the fact that inside of that 3 weeks that I waited for his call, ridiculously, we were living together, within a week or days?
Couple weeks.
Yeah,
Couple
he
weeks.
basically moved into my apartment next to Tower Records within the week, and we've been together for 33 years.
And you know what's funny? I never had a boyfriend in my entire life. Period.
I wish I could say the same thing, folks. If you've watched,
scandal.
if you've watched maybe, I don't know, 2 of my episodes,
Right.
we all know that wasn't
Right.
my situation.
Yeah. First
So-
boyfriend, 1994. Can you believe that? Wow. How frigid. Anyway,
Oh, wow. Anyway, so with that, we're gonna. I'm gonna sort of map out another show that won't keep you forever. That's just gonna jump from all of that controversy and ugliness and go into not what would be any of those things, but let's say falling in love with lots of complications.
Yes.
So with that, I guess
I ended up with heads. They got the tail.
there you go. Couldn't be better said.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us tonight. I've got some quirky topics coming up this week, and some ideas for next weekend. Maybe another mini marathon, who knows. But again, I want to thank my husband.
Yay.
And I want to thank baby girl for joining us.
And don't be a Manchurian candidate.
Yeah. Don't.
Mr.
Well, no,
Maslow.
unless you're learning my method of acting, and then that is a different story.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. Though.
So-
That's true.
So thank you again for joining us, you guys. As always, I love you. I love you for sticking with me. And I want you to go out and do every damn thing that I wouldn't do, as you know. Robin Hood signing off. Robin Hood number 2 signing off. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Keep causing trouble.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
You're so funny. Oh boy.
Bye.